All right, first of all, Frank, thanks for joining us here on Astro SuperSport. It's really nice to meet you. I think the first thing we have to address is I think there's no need to sugarcoat the situation. It's not been a great season for Chelsea, to say the least. You were brought in to stable the ship a little bit. Do you feel you've done that this season?
It's been a very tough year for the club. So I think when I came in, I was very aware of that, and also an understanding from having experience in football that things don't necessarily change very quickly. There's a lot of work to be done. So in terms of stabilising the ship, we've tried to do that behind the scenes, working with the team, getting to know the players quickly. Have we got the results that we wanted? No. But some of that is understandable. We had very tough Champions League games against Real Madrid, some tough games in the league. We have a very tough run in. So I think probably with our position this year, the season is what it is in terms of the Premier League, a disappointment for our standards as a club. And probably if there's anything in my job, there'll be can we make some small wins that help the future of the club? You know, with some of the young players that we've brought into the team this season that have come from foreign leagues into the Premier League, the hardest league in the world, working out the balance of the squad, my opinion on those things, because I've coached here before, I've played here a long time. So hopefully I can have a positive impact on those things, and then obviously we want to finish the season well.
Yeah, I think a lot of Chelsea fans would want to see Chelsea fighting at the top again as soon as possible. Obviously that applies to you as well, having Chelsea in your blood. What sort of shape do you feel Chelsea are at the moment in terms of the prospects of next season? What shape are you leaving them at?
Well, it remains to be seen, because I don't think there are many quick fixes in football, and the Premier League moves on very quickly. You know, so I think that's why this year's been difficult for us, because you do see that now the battle for the top four is harder than it's ever been.
It will keep getting harder.
And it will get harder and harder. Teams are investing, teams in and around, everywhere in the table, the level of player, the level of tactics, the level of coaches, everything is kind of improving. And that's the beauty of the league. So I think we can only focus on ourselves as a club and understand the things that maybe we want to put right from what has happened here. And I don't think it's just this season. I think some things you can look at over a period of time and understand where we want to get to. So I think it's not for me to jump into the future and guess. It's definitely a lot of hard work. I think we will benefit from a break and a pre-season and a look at the squad and a way of working that will take us with a new freshness, because I felt that from coming in, that we need that natural break. And then, of course, it's the desire for the club to get back to where it has been.
So when you came in this time round, your second time round, how is the situation different in terms of the dressing room compared to the first time you were elected as Chelsea manager? Because there are some similar players, but it's a different scenario altogether.
Yeah, sure. I think there's probably around half of the squad I've worked with before, I think. And when I came in before, we had a transfer ban, so we brought through some young academy players that had been out on loan or in the academy, and we had some experience. So I felt like we had a really good mix in terms of the experience and youth, which kind of push each other.
Was the mood different in those two occasions?
Yeah, because I came in, even with the transfer ban, we'd lost a big player in Eden Hazard, but I found it not easy, but the message of trying to make up for losing Eden Hazard with the youth, with the team ethic and all these things was taken on board by the players, and I really enjoyed particularly that first season coming back here. So I think it was, and I think it's understandable when I come in now into a team that's maybe not winning as many games as we normally want this season. It's understandable that confidence is much lower probably than what it was before, but these waves and cycles do happen in football, and so it's important that everybody at the club, but particularly the playing squad, understand that there's only one way out of that situation, and that's to work, and everyone must take their own responsibility amongst that.
Do you feel that there is a part of you that sort of relates to what the players are going through today? Because you've had that in your playing days under Chelsea, a change in ownership, changes in manager, and then when Roman Abramovich came over, bought over the club, you had all these big players coming through the door, Crespo, Makelele, quite similar to the situation at the moment.
I think that there were probably some simple similarities in terms of it's a change, and an interim manager change, a mid-season change. We've had now 2 this season. But I also think that it was a different era, and it's hard to compare eras because managers changed quite a bit when I was here.
But change in ownership, though?
Well, ownership is a big deal, but I think what will always be viewed is what happens on the pitch. That's kind of how Chelsea will always be really gauged. And what we had probably before was a really stable squad of experienced players and a team that kind of looked after itself on the pitch. So the manager changed, and sometimes now it's clear that the squad is a different profile with some younger players that have just arrived, that are finding their feet. And there's a lot of responsibility on them. They'll find your feet straight away. It's not easy, especially in a difficult moment. So I think there are reasons, you know, there are some variables you can look at this season. You know, ownership change from before, manager change twice in the season, new players coming in. But the important thing now is that doesn't become an excuse going forward. The vision and the way forward has got to be very positive. So it's not good to look back to those things and make them a reason. Now we have to take the club forward.
Did it affect you though as a player at that period of time? All the changes.
It's hard to say. Every change is different. But what we did do is, you know, win some big competitions amongst the changes. But again, I think the stability of the squad made it a different feel. But I remember the vulnerability of ownership change and manager change. I remember the vulnerability of Roman Abramovich buying the club and understanding, oh, these people are going to threaten my position. So as a player, your reaction is either, I don't want this competition, or I want to show that I'm better than the players that are coming in. And that's what a player's real reaction should be. It's like, I'm a Chelsea player. You're always going to have competition. You may have change of manager, ownership. You know, this is a very driven business we're in. But you yourself have to do your job and do it well. And I think that's where maybe now the process that has to happen going forward.
Well, now that you've got quite a bit of experience under your belt as a coach and as a manager, what's the biggest lesson you've learned in your managerial career?
Wow, I mean, you learn very regularly from my first days at managing Derby to managing Chelsea twice, Everton in between. But I think keeping the basics, the basic idea of football simple and getting them right is a huge thing. And when I say that, I'm probably saying that freshly coming into this situation where if a team is slightly low on confidence, slightly underperforming, if there's any question about what you can get to, what the motivations are to the end of the season, the other parts do not matter so much. You must get the basics right and have a strong group and a collective and an idea and a real determination to get somewhere. And I think that is always the case. And I think the teams that I've managed and coached, you understand when that feeling is good and results follow that. If you can't get that feeling right, you have to really work to it. And so there are many things you always learn in football, but you're trying to create a strong spirit, a strong group that are very competitive. And after that, then you can add.
Do you feel that your reputation as a coach also ebbs and flows as well and has been affected by all the clubs that you've mentioned and how those tenure went? Yeah,
absolutely. That's the modern day in the world we live in. You know, one day some of the greatest coaches, Pep Guardiola is a great example at Manchester City, can be criticised for not winning the Champions League. People forget the 95% where he's been this amazing coach that's won Champions Leagues before and has done an incredible job at Manchester City. That's like the top level. Every manager has like a version of those events. So like when I look back on my years of management, I can be very happy with my job at Derby. We just missed out on promotion to the Premier League. My year at Chelsea when I was first here with a young team. So there are things you look back on going, that was a really good moment and that's not so good. What you can't do is kind of wave yourself to what a public opinion may be in any moment, because football will always have flows to it and you have to stay very strong about how you work and what you want to get to.
What would you say is your coaching philosophy and how is it different than maybe certain playing philosophies you've had as a player?
Well, this is the thing with different teams, like when you have a philosophy of how you want to play.
But surely you have like a core value of things that
I have a core value.
What you would like.
Yeah, of course. Well, it goes off probably, some of it goes through my own career and the squads that I used to play in because we had great success. And what are the things that brought that great success? It was a hard-working group of players, so you want to try and create that. I always want to see, I want to enjoy the football that I'm watching and make it exciting, which for me more is a game where we control a lot of the ball. And then probably it's a good example of my career in management. If Derby County, we had a lot of control of the ball, maybe more than 50%. Chelsea first time, 60, 70%. And then when you go to Everton, with the type of squad you have to understand having 30% possession, which means defending lower, counter-attacking and compromising some of those ideals that you really want to get to. So I always want to get to a team that can control a game and be very fast-paced in terms of how we attack, an exciting team to watch and lots of energy in the team. But the reality is when you work in the jobs I have, sometimes around that you have to compromise with a view to getting there.
So just one final one from me then. Looking back at your playing days, do you now have a newfound appreciation, or are there certain things when you were playing that a manager did or a coach did that maybe you didn't fully understand? Now that you're a coach yourself, you're like, oh, right.
Yeah.
Oh, that's why. I wasn't a very good student, for example.
No, I get what you're saying. I think there are lots of good and bad of that.
Yeah.
There are some things that you really appreciate now when a manager set a good environment, when a manager makes you individually feel very good. When a manager makes you feel good and you have a good personal relationship, it's like one of the best things you can have in football. You want to have that relationship, and then on top of that, you have managers that are really tactical and give you some good information. If I'm honest, throughout my career, I don't remember. There were not so many managers that were really specific with the tactics with me. The good managers I had made me feel good and created a structure where my place in it was clear, and I could work along that and do well. On the other side, like you say, there were times if I maybe, when I got a bit older and I wasn't playing so regularly and I was, a sub or whatever, not playing, I will be upset and I'll be frustrated and I wanted to play. And of course now I'm a coach, I have to make those decisions with players, and not one player. It's like at Chelsea, it's like 9 players on the bench and another 7 players that are not coming to the match. And it's difficult. So now I have an understanding on both sides that as a coach, it's not an easy choice, but as a player, you also have to respect that the coach has difficult decisions.